Leora opened her eyes to a sky that shimmered in colors she had never seen before. She tried to remember how she had arrived here, but the memories were hazy, blurred by panic and fear. One moment she had been aboard her father's ship, the mighty vessel of Baron Xylar, gliding smoothly through the stars, and the next, she had been thrown into an unfamiliar world, surrounded by thick forests that glowed faintly under the twin moons. She struggled to her feet, her limbs trembling. Her alien heritage had given her strength and speed, but nothing could have prepared her for the sudden loneliness that pressed against her chest. The Baron had left her here, a child cast aside during a mission he called too risky. The words burned in her mind. Left to perish, forgotten, unwanted. The air smelled sweet and earthy with a hint of something strange and metallic. The trees bent gently as if acknowledging her presence, their leaves shimmering like glass in the soft moonlight. Tiny creatures, luminous and delicate, darted across the undergrowth, curious but careful. Leora watched them, fascinated, and for the first time in hours a small spark of wonder flickered inside her. She took a cautious step forward. Every sound, every rustle of leaves made her heart race. She did not know which plants were safe to touch or which creatures might react aggressively. Her father had never taught her to survive in the wild. He had only taught her to follow orders, to obey without question. And now in this silent world she had no one to obey, no one to guide her. She had only herself. As she wandered, Leora found a stream of clear water running through the forest. She knelt and drank, feeling the cool liquid soothe her dry throat. Her stomach growled, reminding her that she had not eaten since she had landed. Around her the plants seemed to pulse softly, almost as if they were alive in ways she could not understand. She reached out to touch one, and it shimmered under her fingers, leaving a faint warmth that spread through her hand. "Hello?" a voice called softly, startling her. Leora spun around. There, stepping cautiously from behind a tree, was a human. He was tall, with dark hair and gentle eyes that seemed to study her with curiosity rather than fear. His clothes were simple and practical, designed for exploration rather than battle. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quickly, raising his hand slightly. "My name is Ethan. I've been studying this planet." "Are you lost?" Leora hesitated. She had been taught that humans were clever but fragile, and she had never trusted them. Yet something in Ethan's calm manner, his lack of weapons or armor, made her pause. She nodded slightly, unsure if she wanted help or if she wanted to disappear back into the forest. "You don't look like you belong here," Ethan said softly. "Do you need food? Shelter?" Leora's pride flared. She was the daughter of a baron, a being of power and influence. She should not need help from a human, but her stomach reminded her that pride alone would not fill it. She nodded again, this time with more acceptance. Ethan smiled gently. "Come with me. I can show you a safe place. You'll be able to rest and we can figure out what to do next." As they walked together through the glowing forest, Leora began to notice details she had never appreciated. The way the light reflected off the streams, the gentle hum of the wind through the trees, the way the creatures moved in patterns that felt almost intelligent. She realized that this world was not hostile. It was simply different, and she would have to learn its ways. Ethan pointed out edible plants and small fruits that grew in clusters along the trees. Leora tasted them cautiously and found them surprisingly sweet and nourishing. He taught her how to move quietly through the forest, how to observe without disturbing, and how to sense patterns in the life around her. Leora absorbed everything eagerly, her mind stretching to understand concepts her father had never deemed important. By the time the twin moons had moved across the sky, Leora felt a new kind of energy within her. It was not the strength her father had praised, nor the obedience he had demanded. It was something softer but no less powerful: curiosity, resilience, and a willingness to learn. They arrived at a small clearing where Ethan had built a shelter. It was simple, made of wood and woven vines, but it was safe and dry. Leora sat down and took a deep breath, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease. For the first time since she had been abandoned, she felt hope. "Thank you," she said quietly, looking at Ethan. "You're welcome," he replied with a small smile. "You've got a lot of strength in you, Leora. Not the kind your father thinks matters, but the kind that really counts." Leora looked up at the glowing trees, at the creatures moving gently among the branches, at the clear water of the stream. She realized that she was not helpless, not abandoned forever. She had found an ally, and perhaps in this strange new world she could find herself too. and for the first time she wondered if being left behind was not the end of her story, but the beginning. Days passed, and Leora began to settle into life on the glowing planet. She woke each morning to the soft hum of the forest, the light of twin moons fading into the warm glow of a rising sun. Though she had once lived in grand halls aboard her father's ship, she found a strange comfort in the simplicity of her new home. Every day brought new lessons, small challenges that tested her mind and patience more than her strength. Ethan had become her guide, but not in the way her father had guided her. He did not demand obedience or respect because of her heritage. Instead, he encouraged her curiosity, answering her questions and inviting her to explore with him. Together, they mapped the streams and the fruiting trees, noted the habits of the gentle creatures, and experimented with ways to make life easier in the forest. Leora discovered a talent she had never known. She had always been clever, but now she was learning to combine her intelligence with practical thinking, inspired by Ethan's approach. She built small traps to collect water from the leaves after rain, and she used vines to create tools for carrying fruit without touching the sharp edges of plants. Ethan watched her work with admiration. "You're learning fast," he said one afternoon as they sat near the stream, sorting fruits into baskets. "I think you'll do more than survive here, you'll thrive." Leora smiled faintly. "I have to. I don't have a choice." Her voice carried a hint of bitterness. Memories of her father lingered, a shadow over her thoughts. She hated the fact that he had left her, but she could not deny that the experience had forced her to grow. Ethan noticed her gaze on the horizon, where the forest gave way to a range of softly glowing hills. "You're thinking about him again," he said gently. I don't know what I am thinking," Leora admitted. "He left me. He never cared if I lived or died." "Then why give him your worry?" Ethan asked. "You can't control what he does, but you can control what you do." The words settled over her. She thought about the challenges she had faced in the last few days, finding food, learning to navigate the forest, even understanding the creature's movements. Each small victory reminded her that she had the ability to survive without fear. For the first time, she felt a spark of pride not tied to her father's approval. Over the next few days, Leora and Ethan decided to explore the hills. They wanted to understand more about the planet and perhaps find a way to make it even safer. Leora moved with more confidence now, testing her alien agility against the uneven terrain, while Ethan observed the unusual plants and recorded his findings. At one point, Leora noticed a vine that glowed faintly when touched. Curious, she pulled gently and it released a small luminescent fruit. She handed it to Ethan. "What do you think it is?" she asked. Ethan examined it carefully. "It looks edible. Let's try a small piece." They shared the fruit and both felt a warm energy spreading through them. "Interesting," Ethan said. "I think it might give extra energy if eaten regularly. Nature here is teaching us its own lessons." The moment made Leora reflect. Even in a world so different from her own, life had ways of helping those who observed and learned. Perhaps the universe was not as cold and indifferent as her father had made it seem. Perhaps there was a kind of intelligence, a pattern, that could be understood with patience and care. That evening, as they built a small shelter among the hills, Leora tried something new. She suggested ways to organize their tools and supplies more efficiently, drawing on ideas she had learned from watching humans and observing the natural flow of the environment. Ethan listened closely, then smiled. "You're learning to combine your alien knowledge with human ideas. That's a rare skill." Leora felt a quiet satisfaction. She realized she was no longer just a child abandoned by her father. She was a student of the world, a thinker, a problem solver, and she had a friend who respected her mind and her abilities, rather than seeing her as someone to protect or command. As night fell, the forest lit up in a dazzling display of glowing plants and floating orbs. Leora lay on a soft bed of moss, staring at the sky. She thought about the distance between this planet and her father's ship. She thought about what it meant to be strong and what it meant to be alone. And then she smiled softly. She did not feel alone anymore. Ethan was nearby, tending the fire and humming a quiet tune. He looked up and caught her gaze. "You know," he said, "I think you're going to do something amazing one day. Not because you're strong like your father wanted, but because you're smart, kind, and brave in ways he could never understand." Leora nodded, feeling the truth of it. She realized that strength was not about power or fear. It was about learning, adapting, and caring for others, even in the face of uncertainty. The thought warmed her more than any fire could, and as she closed her eyes, the forest's glow reflecting softly on her face, Leora understood something important. She had found her strength, not in the shadow of her father, but in the friendship, knowledge, and courage she was discovering on this alien world. Tomorrow she would face new challenges. But for now she felt ready, and for the first time she imagined a future that belonged entirely to her. One where she could define herself, explore and grow, free from fear and neglect. The sun rose slowly over the glowing hills, casting soft light across the forest. Leora stretched, feeling the strength in her arms and legs, the clarity in her mind. She had grown so much since the day she was abandoned. Every day brought lessons, small victories, and confidence she had never known in her father's world. She no longer felt like a helpless child. She was a thinker, an explorer, and a friend. Ethan was already busy collecting fruits and checking water sources. "Good morning," he called softly. "I thought you might want to help plan today's exploration." Leora smiled. She enjoyed the way he trusted her ideas now. "I think we should go toward the far hill," she said. "I saw some unusual plants there yesterday. Maybe we can learn something new." Ethan nodded. "Sounds good. Let's pack some food and water first." As they moved through the forest, Leora noticed small changes in herself. She was more careful and patient, observing the creatures and plants before acting. She had learned that rushing led to mistakes, but thoughtful observation brought solutions. Her alien senses, combined with lessons from Ethan, made her remarkably skilled at navigating the forest safely. Halfway to the hill, a soft hum carried through the trees. Leora paused. "Do you hear that?" Ethan listened. "Yes, it's coming from the crystals near the stream." The crystals scattered along a small clearing pulsed with light and energy. Leora knelt to study them. "They react to touch," she said. She experimented carefully, pressing her hand lightly on the surface. The crystals glowed brighter and a faint vibration ran through the ground. Ethan watched in awe. "Amazing. You're learning to interact with the planet in ways I could never do alone." Leora felt a swell of pride. It was a new kind of achievement, not measured by power or titles, but by understanding and connection. She realized that her father had never valued this type of strength. He had cared only for obedience and control, never curiosity, patience, or empathy. They continued toward the far hill, collecting samples and noting the patterns in the forest. Leora's mind was sharp, her hands steady. Each step confirmed that she had changed. She was no longer the child left behind. She was a student of life, and the planet itself was teaching her more than her father ever could. When they reached the hill, they discovered a small plateau covered in flowers that emitted a faint, musical chime when the wind passed through them. Leora laughed softly. "This place, it's alive in ways I never imagined." Ethan smiled. "And now you know its secret. You've learned how to listen to it, how to understand it." They spent hours exploring, experimenting, and learning. Leora began to realize that true strength was not about fighting or commanding. It was about thinking, observing, and finding solutions. It was about curiosity and care, qualities that humans embodied so naturally. She had discovered these qualities within herself, and they made her feel powerful in a way her father could never understand. As evening approached, a faint glimmer appeared on the horizon. Leora's heart skipped. She recognized it immediately. Her father's fleet. He had come to search for her, to bring her back. Fear fluttered in her chest, but it was different from the panic she had felt when she first landed. This time she was not helpless. She had knowledge, strategy, and allies. Ethan noticed her tension. "Are you ready for this?" he asked quietly. Leora nodded. "I am. I don't need to fight him. I just need to show him who I have become." When Baron Xyler arrived, his ship descending slowly, he looked down at his daughter standing calmly on the plateau. He expected fear, perhaps tears, maybe even obedience. Instead, he saw confidence, curiosity, and intelligence in her eyes, qualities he had dismissed as weakness. Leora met his gaze steadily. "I am no longer the child you left behind," she said. "I have learned to survive, to think, and to understand. I am not defined by your rules or your approval." The Baron was silent. He had expected defiance or confusion, but not this calm, reasoned strength. He realized that the daughter he had abandoned had grown into someone more capable than he had imagined. not through control or fear, but through curiosity, learning, and compassion. Leora turned to Ethan, who smiled and nodded. She had chosen to rely on her friend, to embrace learning and empathy, and it had shaped her into someone truly strong. She understood now that strength was not about power or fear. It was about growth, understanding, and connection. The Baron studied the plateau, the glowing plants and the creatures moving gently around his daughter. He realized that he could not command her, and perhaps for the first time he felt a quiet admiration. Leora did not need his permission to thrive. She had created her own path. Ethan extended his hand and Leora took it, feeling the warmth of friendship and trust. Together they walked down the hill, leaving the ship behind. The forest glowed softly around them, a world alive with lessons and wonders. Leora knew there would always be challenges ahead, but she felt ready for them. As the stars began to shine in the sky above, Leora looked up and smiled. She was free, not just from fear or abandonment, but from the limits others had tried to place on her. She had discovered the true measure of strength, and it was hers to define. And for the first time, she imagined a future filled with learning, exploration, and friendship, where her choices and courage would shape her own story, far beyond the shadow of her father.